let the whole house understand what the goal of the motion is, and I'm going to provide several burdens of proof from our side and also what the opposition side have to prove, and thirdly give several forms of argument. Firstly, under the idea how is the role of the state to protect the rights of these children to be safe from viruses. And also my second speaker is going to provide the benefits of implementing this tax in order to vaccinate these children. So without further ado, let's move on to my first task, characterization. So how are we going to implement an anti-vaccination tax? So we believe that anti-vaccination tax is a form of tax that would be imposed on parents who won't vaccinate their children. These parents would have their statuses whether they have vaccinated the children or not, and when these status show that they haven't vaccinated their children, they would be imposed tax when they are buying goods or shopping and that sort of things. So we believe that this tax would be implemented when the place or the region that has been implemented has been provided vaccination to every individuals at the region. Meaning that when the vaccine has been provided and these individuals refuse to vaccinate their children, this is where when these individuals are going to be imposed tax. So we believe that this tax money would be channeled to welfare and to the development of the nation as a whole. So we think that this tax money would become the revenue for the nation. And also this tax is something that is going to be implemented only on individuals who have children that has not been vaccinated. No, thank you. So what's happening in the status quo? We believe that in the status quo, there are many anti-vaxxers who refuse to vaccinate their children. We believe that when this happens, they are endangering their children, and we believe that it is the role of the state to protect the rights of the children to be protected. So with that said, the burden of proof coming from our side, we believe that by implementing anti-vaccination tax, we will encourage individuals to let their children undergo vaccination in the end of the day. But before that, any POI?
Yes, I do have a POI.
Sure.
You said that you would like to impose taxes on parents when they are going out shopping and day-to-day activities. Can you clarify how you would actually like to identify these parents every time they go out, for any purpose?
Yeah, sure. Well, I guess like it would occur when you go to a certain store, they would have a scanning mechanism or like a forms of check where you have to show that you have vaccinated your children and that sort of form. I don't think it has to be that specific how the system works, but in general, when they can detect that they haven't vaccinated their children, these parents would have to impose tax. And we believe that these children are individuals who are below the age of 18 or under the guardianship of these parents. And when these individuals cannot make the decision by themselves, these parents are responsible for their children. Okay, so now move on to my argument. It is the role of the state to protect these individuals. It is the role of the state to protect the rights of these children. So first level of analysis, we believe that parents are responsible for children. Children are able to make decision, and these parents have the authority to allow their children to go vaccinated or not. And when these parents refuse to vaccinate their children, they are endangering these children. So we believe that it is the role of the state to protect the rights of these children by reducing or taking away the liberty of these parents. When we impose tax on these parents, we are coercing them to encourage to vaccinate their children, because we believe that when you put taxation, it would make people feel the discomfort when they want to use the money just because they don't want to vaccinate their children. We believe that when we take away the money of these parents, it's going to encourage the parents to vaccinate their children. So why is this form of coercion is justified? We believe that the states have the right to take away the liberty of these parents, because the liberty of these parents harms the rights or like the safety of these children. When these parents refuse to vaccinate these children, their rights of liberty harms the rights of these children to be protected and to be safe from viruses. So we believe that this is the justification that we believe that when we impose this tax, is the best option to protect these children and protect the individuals in the society. So we believe that it is justified to reduce one's right when they harm the rights of another individual. So why do we believe that taxation is the best incentive or narrative to encourage these individuals to vaccinate these children? So we believe that by taxing them, we are not directly taking away their rights of choice. They still have a choice to do so. They have the choice to pay this tax, or they have a choice to vaccinate the children. We don't await they're directly taking away their rights of choice by physically coercing them or like just injecting them directly. We believe that they still have the option to not vaccinate their children, but it would definitely cost them a lot of money if they refuse to do so. And we believe that in the end of the day is very effective but still justified way or a narrative to encourage parents to vaccinate their children. So what's the comparison on our side? We are going on our side, we have implemented a very healthy narrative that allows people to make the choice to vaccinate or that they would have to pay tax when they refuse to do so. And in the end of the day, it's going to encourage people to just vaccinate their children because there's no better option. Why not just vaccinate their children and then protect the children as well as not pay tax? So it's going to create a world where people would more likely vaccinate their children at the end of the day. So what the opposition side has to prove to the House is tell the House why tax is unjustified and why parents' liberty, like how I've said, does not harm the safety of the children and why it is something to be protected on their side. And also they also have to provide a better narrative in comparison to taxation. They would encourage individuals to vaccinate the children and allow and also protect the rights of the children from dangers of the virus and so on. So I believe on our side we have done several things. We have proved to the House why taxation is justified, why it is the role of the state to coerce their parents to vaccinate their children, and how we're going to protect the children at the end of the day, and why taxation is the best narrative to protect the children. So if you want to create a better world where these children are fully vaccinated and safe from harm, go with the government side. I've never been prouder to propose. Thank you.
Thank you, the first speaker of the government, to open up his case. So next, I would like to invite the leader of opposition to open up the case for the opposition. Here, here.
Am I audible? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, you are.
Yes, okay.
Loud and clear.
I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. This House will implement an anti-vaccination tax on parents who refuse to vaccinate their children. Today, that is the most of our debate. And I believe that our government side does not actually understand the effect of taxing someone who is not actually evil, as they call these parents. Are they evil or are they scared? Are they not educated or are they educated? Are they privileged or are they not privileged? To conclude all of these people as one simple word evil is simply disgusting, really. First of all, let me continue my duty to first of all rebut what our first speaker had said. So first of all, they talk about how taxation is a discomfort. We take away their money little by little. Imagine how much of a burden that is. What if that parent had a bad memory with vaccination? Are you telling me you're going to burden that bad memory instead of educating them by taking away little of their money every time they buy groceries? Is that what you're trying to achieve? Next, they also talk about how this is a type of coercion that is actually needed in this world today. This world is not an easy world, especially these days. You don't have that much money. And then sometimes it is a freedom of choice. And I would tell you that actually what you are doing is taking away that freedom of choice. When an adult is choosing something that is, yeah, sure, it might be wrong, but that is their freedom of choice. But what the government side is trying to do right now is actually taking away that freedom of choice. Yes, go ahead.
Don't you think that when something harms members of society as a whole, that freedom of choice is taken away from them? What's your response to that?
The vaccination rate today is high, yes? That 5% people, they need help. That's what I'm trying to say. But are you telling me you were better off putting all people in such a situation where they are coerced than actually educating them? What if they don't believe in vaccine? Educate them. Why tax them instantly taxing them? What if they're first-time parents who are scared of vaccines? Why are you trying to tax people on things they do not know or they're not actually sure about it? Educate them instead. That's a better way. That's a better narrative which we're going to bring in the opposition side. Next, they also say that the way they're going to impose the tax is actually putting a little bit of tax in every single grocery buys or everything they bought. There's going to be a little tax of telling people, oh, I haven't vaccinated my child. that is actually an incredibly ridiculous way for you to impose a tax, especially tax as much as this. Why? Because even these days, where we actually have a tracking system for our vaccination rate, for our vaccinated people, there are still people overcoming that system. How can you come here so sure that such way can be done so easily? It's not gonna work. Sure, it's gonna work maybe 70% of the time. That 30% of the time, those privileged people can overcome this way. Why? Because we can see it today. Next, I will continue with my points myself. First of all, they don't actually. No, thank you. First of all, the stakeholder of today is the children themselves. Sure, they're affected, but also the parents are affected. Both the parents and the children are those in stake today for today's debate. Parents have right to choose. I agree with that. They have the right to choose for vaccination or not vaccination. But today, in the opposition side, we tell you, instead of taxing them for their choice, educate them for their choice. How do we educate them? First of all, no, thank you. First of all, why shouldn't we tax them? I'll begin with that. We are just burdening low-income family, especially with the way our government side is taxing them. It's just going to burden the low-income family. They might not know, they might be scared. And also, it might act as an easy way out for people that are privileged. In the end, the way that the government side is going to bring, up until 18 years old, if you are able to pay that tax, they're just going to pay that tax. If this is not going to be not going to be educated, not going to be vaccinating the children. And let me tell you how do we, in the government, the opposition side, is going to educate them. First of all, make it mandated education. Before they are able to give, before the birth of the firstborn, mandate that education. Next, if for the secondborn, thirdborn, give a continuous supply of education for them if they still choose not to vaccinate. And what can we take away from them? This. It's better for us to take away their rights, the little bit of liberty. What kind of liberty? Those children might not get the same thing that vaccinated children got. I'll give you an example. Maybe we can take a bit the freedom of completely free education. I'm not telling you 100% free education must be taken away. No, maybe 70% freedom of education. For you to be given that privilege, you must be vaccinated. That is what we're doing today too. Those who are vaccinated are given more liberty. That is actually correct, but not imposing tax like a dictator that trying to take away their money. Those taxes is going to not be going to the welfare of the people in the end. It's going to be to build up the country. Are you a dictator for taking away their freedom of choice? Instead, they are imposed with a tax because they are scared of doing something or they're not fully educated. Educate them mandately. If they refuse to be educated, not refuse to be vaccinated, refuse to be educated, make sure those people cannot get the same liberty, that the 100% liberty, freedom of education for the children. Then that is scary. Why? Because that's the future of the children. That is a good example of how you actually want to impose vaccination but not burdening them. Let me tell you an example. Australia, they had a 95% of vaccination rate for children under 5 years old. Why? Because this is exactly what they impose. We can see now today that this is actually a better choice than just taxing them, burdening the low-income family, and actually giving a choice, easy way out for it's simple. It's an easy way out for those privileged enough but does not want to be does not want to be vaccinated and a burden to the low-income family. Instead, by educating them, mandating education, we can actually make sure they know why they should be vaccinated for the children. In the end, our end goal is to create a better world where everyone has still have the right to choose and be healthy at the same time. I think that is all from the opposition side. We can clearly see which one is the better side into this debate. That is all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, the Leader of Opposition. Next, I would like to invite the Deputy Prime Minister from the government to present the case. Here.
All right, am I audible?
Yes, loud and clear.
Right. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. We live in a world where we understand and accept the virtue of freedom of choice. However, when there comes a time when a person's choice harms society as a whole, the argument and basis of freedom of choice is no longer valid. Now, first, in order to structure my speech, today I'll be giving a few rebuttals towards the leader of opposition to break her case and to tell you why opposition has clearly misunderstood the entire motion. Secondly, provide my own burdens, which is prove how beneficial it is to ensure that these children are vaccinated. Secondly, to prove that without an anti-vaccination tax, there will be bigger harms at stake. And thirdly, to prove how effective tax is. So before I start, I'd like to re-clarify that both sides have a common problem that we have to solve, which is children being unvaccinated. Under our side, sure, we have passive coercion. However, we believe it's a dire need to do so and to ensure the safety of the children and society. However, under opposition, I'd like to push the deputy leader of opposition to come up with a better mechanism in order to make sure that these children are vaccinated. So first of all, to start with my rebuttals to the leader of opposition. First of all, she came up talking about how this is burdening to the parents, and she gave extreme examples how the parents are poor, how the parents will be able to pay the taxes. Our simple answer to this, if you're unable to pay the taxes, then vaccinate your children. That's all there is to say. The reason why we understand the fact that, okay, yes, there are people who are unprivileged, there are people who don't understand what vaccines are. However, with these taxes, we are creating an awareness towards these parents that vaccination is dire and that how important it is, that to the point that we need to tax them. And I'll explain this more in my points. Second rebuttal is regarding how vaccination rate is already high and that you should actually focus on education. Toward the team of opposition, please look at the outside world. Sure, you see that education. Look at the current status quo. Is education working? No, we still have so many cases of parents not educating their children or refusing to educate their children because of the sole basis of presence of false news, of fake info about vaccinations, which is why we tell you that education is not working. And how so? Because the Ministry of Health themselves have already posted so many infographics online, pasted them in hospitals, pasted them in public spaces, but these people are still refusing to acknowledge that education, refusing to learn what these vaccinations actually do. Because education is not working, because there are still a majority of people who refuse to vaccinate their children, we believe that it's so dire for us to impose a tax, which is why we're taking this passive coercion side. Thirdly, she talked about how, no thank you, I haven't even done with my bottles. Thirdly, she talked about how this is a privilege to the vaccinated, how only the vaccinated will be able to have or harbor certain privileges. We believe that, yes, that is the case that we're trying to fight for because it's so dire for people to be vaccinated. Don't come up and tell us that, oh, it's unfair for the unvaccinated, it's unfair that only the vaccinated people can take the privileges, where in fact it is fair because the unvaccinated people are the ones who are giving harm to the society as a whole. And it is even more important if it's in their children. Now, starting with my rebuttals, with my burdens. Before that, sure, I'll take one POI.
Would you agree then that mandated education is better than just studies education? That's what we're trying to bring here in the opposition side.
Education. Okay, sorry. What you have to realize is that I literally just said that education is not working no matter what you do. Education is still not working, which is why we have to take this side. You still have to prove to us what is the better option for you to actually ensure that these people are vaccinated because current status quo and because education is not working. So please improve that in your deputy leader opposition speech. First, moving on to my first rebuttal, to what are the benefits from implementing an active vaccination tax? So this actually creates a sense of awareness for the parents to vaccinate their children. So why is this true? Before this, when there was no tax, there was no sense of urgency and there was no sense of vaccines being mandatory. The parents were allowed to choose whatever they wanted to do with their children, if they wanted to vaccinate or not vaccinate. But when there's a tax, it shows that vaccination is no longer something that is light or should be taken lightly. It shows that vaccination is an important and crucial thing that these parents should do for their children. It shows that because there's a tax, it shows that these parents have to do this because it's something that's dire. So why is this crucial to the debate? We know that in current status quo, people and parents themselves lack awareness due to the false news or fake reports and everything, exaggerated stories about vaccination that instills fear in these parents, which leads to ignorance in the sense of them not wanting to vaccinate their children out of this. So with the taxes, it actually creates a sense of awareness because one, it proves that it's important. It's important for these parents to actually vaccinate their children because if you don't vaccinate your children, then you have to pay this sum of money. And we believe that even if there are parents who are able to pay, in the long-term run, this will actually harm them in the same way. So we tell you that it's important for this tax to be instilled. Next, my second burden will be there will be bigger harms if the parents are not taxed. So these parents refuse to vaccinate their children on the basis of fake news, fake uncertainties and useless fears, or them not understanding what the vaccine actually is. So if there is no taxing, parents are allowed to do whatever they want with their children, whether they want to vaccinate or whether they do not want to vaccinate. And what does this lead to? This brings to harms to two different sides, which is towards their children and also to society as a whole. So first of all, the harms they bring to their children. hold on, the harms that they bring to their children. So these children are innocent members of society who can't really make a choice for themselves yet. So because of this, their choices depend on their parents' life choices for them. So because of this, because the parents refuse to vaccinate their children, the future of the children is at stake, because in the future they're suddenly not vaccinated and they might contract the virus. Why? Just because of the foolish decisions that their parents have created. Secondly, how this actually affects society. So what about other children? These children, they go to daycare. There's no mandation or there's no rule that children who are unvaccinated and vaccinated cannot mingle together, right? So because of this, other children and other people in society are actually affected by this. So even if the parents come up, even if they're so selfish, coming up saying that, oh, my child is going to be safe from the virus, I'm taking care of my child, yada yada, there's no justification that these children who are unvaccinated won't be able to contract something to other children, won't be able to contract or become a carrier towards other children. Before I move on to my last bit, I'll take one POI.
All right. What happened if if they refuse to pay taxes and they refuse to vaccinate their children? What happened to them?
I think that's okay. Hold on. We're giving you two choices here at the start of the debate. You refuse to tax or you refuse to vaccinate. If you refuse to tax, then you vaccinate. If you don't want to vaccinate, then you pay tax. That's the only condition coming here. I don't think someone would go to the lengths of wanting to not pay tax or wanting to not vaccinate. Don't overcomplicate this debate, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So last but not least, my last bit before I end, the effectiveness of tax. So how is it effective? This actually affects the economy of the government, which was slightly touched by my prime minister. So with tax, the economy of the nation will be affected in a good way. Why? Because you're asking people to pay a sum of money due to refusing to comply to certain rules provided by the government. So what will this lead to? The gov can actually channel this money into using it for welfare, especially in the medical field. For example, applying it into research and vaccination, or cater it to hospitals to have better equipment and infrastructure. So what will this benefit? Who will this benefit bring to? It brings the benefit to the people as a whole, because there's better equipment, there's better research regarding this, all of it because of this tax money, which is why it's justified, because these people get to, the society as a whole gets to benefit from all of this taxation. So what have I told you today? First of all, I've gave you solid rebuttals on why Leader of Opposition's case does not stand. Secondly, I provided my burdens that proves to you why our side government understands this debate really well, and we understand who the actual stakeholders are at stake, which is the children. So in order for you, if you want to stand with a government that actually cares, actually wants to do something for the children of our nation, please side with side government. And I've never been prouder to propose.
Thank you, the Deputy Prime Minister of the government. Next, I would like to invite the Deputy Leader of Opposition to present the case for the opposition. Here.
In a world where there are already so many taxes that people have to pay, side government intends to impose another tax on top of all the other taxes to already further burden people when they're already stretched beyond their limit. Good day to all members of the floor. Let me start off my speech with a few rebuttals. The Prime Minister came up and said that, and labeled parents as evil. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I think that is a very bold statement, and I think that the government is the one who is now on the side of evil. Why do I say so? They come up here and say that we are going to remove the freedom of choice from everyone because it's for the collective good of the society. They think of vaccinations as something that you have to. They are saying that you're not going to force anyone into vaccinations, but what they are doing is basically forcing people into vaccinations, because you don't physically put them down on a chair and stab them with a needle. But at the end of the day, you're still making their lives miserable every single day when they choose not to be vaccinated. That is what side government is trying to prove and trying to do. And they are also saying that what parents are doing is killing their children, or basically endangering their children because they are not choosing to be vaccinated. They have failed to address the parents or the people who choose to acquire immunity from all sorts of diseases through natural acquired immunity. They choose to be infected and then let their body fight it, because for them, that is what the body is meant to do. That is what they are naturally meant to do. All right, so what the Deputy Prime Minister came up and said was that education is not working. How do you justify education is not working? My prime minister came up with a stat where a majority of people are vaccinated. Vaccination rates are high. Yes, vaccination rates are high. Why? Because of that education. Yes, there is that small minority that refuse to be vaccinated. This consists of, yes, people who see fake news on social media and tend to get scared of vaccines, or those people who just, choose to get
Go ahead.
naturally acquired immunity. No, thank you, please. All right. So, how can you come up and say that education is not working? What the what the leader of opposition has proposed is, before a child is born, at least for once, parents should be legally and mandatorily required to attend some sort of crash course to tell them of the benefits of vaccination. After that, because after that, whether or not to vaccinate their child is purely a choice made by the parent, because after that it's whether or not the parent chooses to get the child vaccinated. The parent can say, no, I'm not satisfied with the ingredients in the vaccine, no, I'm not satisfied with the side effects of the vaccine, or the parents can simply say, I want natural acquired immunity for my child. That is what our side is proposing. They are trying to increase vaccination rates. Great, that's a great policy, but that is not by forcing people, taxing them, basically bringing up a dictatorship on how you want everyone to be vaccinated. You might as well just put someone on a chair and stuff a needle into them, because your policy of taxing people is basically doing just that. You're just forcing everyone into being vaccinated. All right. So you're talking about how it benefits society as a whole. Yes, being vaccinated benefits society. We are not disagreeing with that. But you can't take away the rights of people, that choice of people,
Your answer.
when no, when parents choose to go up and to let their children roam around, let their children acquire the immunity for themselves. That is the choice that parents choose to make. Yes, they are already educated, they know the harms, they know the side effects, and they know why you should and should not take the vaccine. But at the end of the day, you are giving them a choice. Parents are given a choice when you are born. And also, parents will also be able to give their children a choice whether or not they want to be vaccinated. Let's talk about that. Yes, you're protecting the children, but at the end of the day, what if the children grow up and regret that? All right. And when you're born, all of us are injected with the tuberculosis vaccine. We are injected with the polio vaccine. We are injected with so many vaccines when we are born. All right. This vaccination decision is taken by our parents. What if, as a child grows up, they regret that decision later? They want to have that naturally acquired immunity. Parents are catering for this. We are also, our side is also catering for those people who want naturally acquired immunity. Those people who refuse to be vaccinated under that scenario of having fake news on WhatsApp and being afraid of it is very small. All right. Education works, which is why it is the right of parents to have that freedom to choose whether or not to vaccinate their children, which is why our side promotes education over taxes. Because when you tax people, you're just forcing them into submission. You're forcing them to do something that they might not be 100% okay with. You're forcing them to take something that they are not satisfied with. How is government side of taxing people just to force them into this right, in a sense where you are actually like forcing them into agreeing with what you say? And don't get me started on how their policy to implement these taxes is absolutely ridiculous. Already people are finding it a hassle to scan their MySejahtera just to go into a premise, and now you want them to have some sort of scanning or way of scanning to know, all right, this person is not vaccinated, so at the checkout counter I'm going to charge him an extra 10% on all his goods. That is just absolutely ridiculous on government's side. Yes, our side wants more vaccinations, but at the same time, our side wants to preserve the rights of people to choose what they do and what they don't do to their body. With that, I say that our side has the better argument, and with that, I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you, the Deputy Leader of Opposition. Next, I would like to invite the whip from the government to present a case for the government. Here.
Okay, before I start, can everyone hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. It is clear to see which side actually understands the whole notion of this debate from the beginning till the end. And I as whip speaker, I will be proving to you why this debate obviously goes to our side. But before that, Assalamualaikum and a good morning. I bid to the members of the floor. I, as the whip speaker on our government side, will be doing a few things for you today. Firstly, I'll be stating a few rebuttals coming from our side. And secondly, I'll be stating a few clashes, comparing both paradigms and proving to you why this debate obviously goes to government side. So on to my rebuttals. It is clear to see. I will be talking about my rebuttals on the two main themes for today. Firstly, the theme of education, and secondly, the theme of freedom of choice. So, firstly, let's talk about the theme of education. So, the whole idea that the opposition side has been talking about is about education and how it's important to educate people instead of coercing them to get vaccinated by imposing an anti-vaccination tax. We've already, as my deputy prime minister has mentioned, as well as my deputy prime minister has mentioned, you haven't conceded to the fact that in status quo, sure, we can see that we've been educating people, and the health industry has been imposing a lot of infographics and such. But let's look at the reality and the status quo of today. Education hasn't been helpful, and sure, your side has, your deputy leader of opposition has mentioned that a majority of people are getting vaccinated because most people are getting educated, right? However, your side fails to mention about the minority of this group. How these minorities, okay, sure, majority of them are getting vaccinated because they're educated, but how about the minority? What you have not, your side hasn't even mentioned what you're going to do about the small percentage of those who are not getting vaccinated, which clearly shows the ignorance on your side. Secondly, we also believe that by imposing a tax on these people, that people will actually become educated from not understanding to understanding the importance simply through a tax. And this tax, no, thank you. This tax doesn't even have to be like a grand amount. And also understand that we've also mentioned by both my prime minister and deputy prime minister have mentioned that these taxes will actually be channeled to the greater good of society, for the betterment of society. So this tax doesn't have to be a negative thing, right? And your side has failed to understand that. So under education,
Yeah, I mean.
no, thank you. Okay, so now we're talking about rebuttal under the theme of freedom of choice. Your side has been talking about freedom of choice. Yeah, sure, we understand that, but your side fails to understand that this debate is not simply about the choice of the parents. But we have to, no, thank you. We have to also understand the freedom of choice of these children. My deputy prime minister has mentioned to you that it's truly sad to see that children don't have a say in their choices, right? Because they're children, right? They haven't been given that ultimate freedom of making their own choices, which we believe this is why our side is actually protecting the rights of the children to be protected from viruses and all these dangerous illnesses, right? Which is why we believe that by simply imposing an anti-vaccination tax, it will create awareness in these parents to understand the importance, which we've been repeating again and again. But your side fails to engage with us on that, and that is truly sad on our side. We believe that that's truly sad. Okay. And then your side talks about dictatorship, how our side is a very dictatorship world where we're trying to simply coerce and like force you to get vaccinated. However, you haven't conceded to the fact that we've already
Pure
stated that
IMS.
you. Sure, go ahead.
Don't you think that when this is not creating awareness, but because you are not giving education and you are more traumatized them rather than giving education?
Okay. Okay, sure. You're saying that we're traumatizing them by not giving them education, but we've already stated from the very get-go that education hasn't been working. And how is this threatening? How is this traumatizing them? Do you realize that how is this traumatizing them? If anything, it's actually affecting society as a whole. You can't simply just look at, okay, what these few individuals who don't want to get vaccinated and threaten the whole society and harm the health of the whole society. Your side is clearly not looking at the status quo that we've mentioned again and again in today's debate.
Yeah, I miss.
No, thank you. Now, on to my rebuttal about dictatorship. You talk about how our side is a very dictatorship society. Understand that we've already mentioned that we are giving them a choice. You either get it's very simple actually. You either get vaccinated and you don't get taxed, or you don't get vaccinated and you get taxed. And the taxation money is not going to do harm to society. That taxation money is actually doing greater good to society. Okay. And then finally, you talk about you can't take the rights of the people and all this notion. No, thank you. No. You can't take the rights of the people and such. You've been going on and on about that. However, you have not even justified why is it important to protect the freedom of choice of people. You have not even proven. You've simply placed assertions and you haven't even proven, and your side actually lacks a lot of analysis, and you haven't even proven to us the importance of why this freedom of choice should be protected. You just simply touch about preserving the rights, but what justifications have you made so far? We see none. Now, I'll be talking about my clashes. So my clashes would be categorized under three main clashes. Firstly, which side would create a safer, healthier society? Secondly, the dire need for anti-vaccination. And thirdly, which side is fair to the children? Firstly, which side will create a safer and healthier society? Our side, we've already proven to you, as my Deputy Prime Minister has mentioned, we've already proven to you the effectiveness of tax as it creates awareness in parents. Sure, we concede to the fact that it is passive coercion, but we believe that this is actually more progress than your side, which simply talks about education. But our side is actually more effective in the long run because we actually create that sense of urgency and awareness in people. And secondly, the dire need for anti-vaccination versus none. We concede to the fact, and we are actually taking a look at status quo today. It is that there is a dire need for this tax because we believe that it will create that sense of understanding and it will actually educate them. So our side is actually understanding what other ways that people can get educated by simply imposing a tax. So we have to look that there is a dire need because children today, if you can see, children today are getting infected by COVID as well. So we believe that these children should also be protected simply by we giving this awareness through this tax. We believe that children have to be protected in the long run, not just simply just following the decisions of parents, but we also believe that children are the main stakeholder of this debate. So it's obvious to see that this debate obviously goes to government side because we truly care about the health of children in today's society for the future of tomorrow. And I've never been to propose.
Thank you, the whip of the government. Now, I would like to invite the whip from the opposition to present the case for the opposition. Here.
All right. I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, today we from the opposition side believe that every problem has its own solution. But to implement an anti-vaccination tax to parents who refuse to vaccinate their children, that is an horrible solution. But before that, a very good morning. I be most respected Mr. Speaker, the honorable educators, precise timekeepers, that government's opposition, and also all the members of this lovely hall. Today we are debating on a very interesting motion, which is this house will implement an anti-vaccine tax to parents who refuses to vaccinate their children. So, ladies and gentlemen, as your whip today, I'm going to clarify the content of the debate. Secondly, I'm going to rebut whatever point given up by the government, and also I will provide the outcome of the debate for today. So, ladies and gentlemen, without wasting your time, let's proceed with my first duty, which is rebuttals. So, let's go to the first speaker. To the first speaker first. So they said that how they label, right, the parents as evil for not vaccinating their children. We tell you that the parent is the one the best for the children. This is not evil, but they just want the best because they are afraid, not because they are evil, because they are not having the exposure of what the benefits of the vaccine itself, right? So that's why we from the opposition side choose to educate them. And the first speaker also said that they are going to channel the money for the development of nation, right? I think this is the greedy way to gain money because yeah, in our world, in any country itself, there are many taxes, right? And they also implement this tax to buy goods or shopping because believe it or not, every day we buy things, right? We pay for car petrol, we buy food, for example. So don't you think that this is burdening them because every single day they have to buy all the things that they want, right? And this will absolutely affect the low class family. But for the high class family, I think this is easy for them to pay because they have money, right? So I think that this kind of mechanism is not fair for any of the society in this world, ladies and gentlemen. And then they also said that every people have the right to choice, right? I don't think that this is I don't think I don't see where is the right of choice, this is the right of choosing, right? Because right now we are literally seeing you are forcing people to forcing the parent to vaccinate their children rather than giving them the right, rather than giving them the opportunity to to say to say what to feel and to say that why they refuse to give vaccine to their children, ladies and gentlemen. And then let's move on to the second speaker, right? And then this is the most horrible point, I think, because they say that they can create awareness from taxing. Because I don't see any education, any information given to the parent. You are just forcing the parents to pay the tax, but no education is given. How is that educating? How is that creating awareness? You are literally traumatizing them by forcing them to pay the tax, not educating them. And then they also relate our mechanism with the status quo, right? With the infographic and whatnot. We tell you our mechanism is totally different from the status quo. We literally make it mandatory for the before the firstborn, ladies and gentlemen, which exists in Australia. It is not just giving infographic. It's all about educating and consulting them, having a mature conversation. The doctor is have a mature conversation between the parents. Tell them what is the ingredient of the vaccine, what contained in the vaccine itself, what is the good and the bad, and they also and the second speaker also state that education is not working. Ladies and gentlemen, we already tell you that majority of the vaccinated people is educated and they know what is ingredient, what is the good of the vaccine. That's why, and I don't know why they are saying that education is not working. Literally, all the majority of the vaccinated people have education. They know what is the good and the bad. But for this minority group, for the parents that refuse uh, to give their children vaccine is because they are not exposed to what is the good and the bad of the vaccine itself. That's why we have to educate them. That's why you have to make this kind of our mechanism mandatory, ladies and gentlemen. And they also didn't see the side effect of their action, ladies and gentlemen. That's why I asked, what if the parent refuses to pay the tax and the parent refuses to vaccinate their children? Because there are a lot of things that if the aggressive parent can do, such as they can run away from the country, for example, they can bring their children to another country. What if that happened, ladies and gentlemen? Do you want to put them in jail? That's why I'm asking, what happened if they still refuse to vaccinate their children? They didn't come up with any mechanism for that. But instead, so before moving on to clashes, yes.
How likely are there going to be individuals that would go to the extent of running away from country just to not pay tax and not vaccinate?
Yeah, this is possible to happen, ladies and gentlemen, because paying tax is literally traumatizing for them and literally burdening them. And also vaccinated, that is the most important things right now. They want the children to be safe. They are scared of the effect of the vaccine. That's why it is possible for them to bring their children to another country. That's what I'm trying to say here. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's go to the clashes. Right now, what I'm trying to do is that how our side is better and how our side understand the motion more than the government side, right? And so, firstly, into this debate, we from the opposition side benefits in both sides, in both parents and also for the government side, because the government side achieve the objective to educate people, right? And this I will tell you that how it not it will give the right for the parents to choice. Sorry, it is giving the parents the right to choice instead of just traumatize them, right? Because we are educating them rather than forcing them to pay this kind of tax, right? And also we are not in, we on their side they are just instilling the dictatorship of the country and not like giving the opportunity uh, to the to this kind of parent to say what to say their opinions, right? Because they also have right, they have their own reason why they want to don't want to take their children to vaccine, right? Because they don't have the exact education for this. That's why we have to give them education. And we tell you, and we also tell you, like if they didn't want to be educated, their children, it will affect the fee, the school fee of their children. If they are not, they want, if they still to refuse to take this kind of mandatory education, right? Their children will be affected. That's why I'm saying that the parent, this is most effective because it is their children. They want the best for their children. That's why it will increase the possibility for them to vaccine. So, ladies and gentlemen, choose wisely, choose opposition. With that, I'm very proud to oppose this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, the whip, for the opposition for the case. So we have come to the end of our debate, and we will continue to the reply speech arena. So I will give like a 1 minute break before we start our reply speech arena. But before that, I would like to double confirm who will be doing the reply for the government and for the opposition.
For government, it's going to be the Deputy Prime Minister.
Okay.
For the opposition is gonna be the LO.
Right. So I think the educator will take note on that.
All right, I will do.
All right. Your 1 minute begin now. All right, before we start our reply speech, I would like to do a cliche reminder that during the reply speech, the speaker should not introduce any other points, and also there is no BOI allowed during the reply speech. So, without further ado, let us hear the reply speech from the opposition side. Here.
In today's reply speech, I will tell you guys why the government side is wrong and why the opposition side is right. And that will show everyone here why this debate goes to the opposition side. The government side truly believe in a world of where dictatorship is better, even in the simplest way. Tax people who are wrong and uneducated instead of pushing a mandated education, which the opposition side, had tried to bring. They never actually proved to us how, by pushing taxes, is going to increase a already high because of education vaccination rate today. They actually also give us more what ifs than actually prove to us how it's gonna work. They never once proved to us how mandated taxes is way better than mandated education. They bring to us a mechanism to impose on these people that is truly ineffective. They also failed to see that in today's education system, into this status quo, it is the education system that caused the all-time high vaccination rate that exists in today's world. That all shows everyone how wrong and how they, in the government side, doesn't actually understand what they themselves are trying to bring, and they are not strong enough, and they're not proving us to us enough that what they try to bring to this table is anything better than a mandated education. Why are we right? Why are the opposition side right? Let me tell you guys. What we bring today is to improve today's situation where where vaccination rate is already at all times high. We just want to attack those minority of people. That is what we're trying to bring. We give out an effective mechanism, a mandated education that could help people to understand why they as a parent should vaccinate their child. That is why we are stronger in the opposition side. We had also proven to everyone, even in today's world, education and non-mandated one, let me tell you, in today's world, we have proven to everyone here that a non-mandated education have worked, and we tell you guys a better, effective way to tackle this minority by giving mandated education. That is what the opposition side had bring. This shows to everyone why we are better in the opposition side. We are telling everyone that by mandating what the government side had tried to bring is nothing but a dictatorship, and they are actually the real evil here. If they had managed to call the parents who are uneducated, who are at wrong, evil. That is why the opposition side should be the one who win to this debate. I believe it's that simple. The government side refused to give us the better way of trying to better the world by attacking those minority. Instead, they want to tax everyone. That is evil. What we want to bring is a good, strong education, a mandated one that could ensure that they have a better future, one that could ensure that the world is a better place. That is our end goal today. So I believe everyone here understand why this debate should not be accepted. This debate should not go to the government side. This debate should go to the opposition side. I think that is all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, the opposition, for the reply. And lastly, I would like to invite the government side to wrap up the case. Here.
There are only two things that I have to do today in this reply to prove to you why government has won. Honestly, I don't even have to prove anything. I think it's quite clear. So first of all, what I'll be doing today is first, I'll be proving why they lose, why opposition loses, and why government side wins. So first of all, why opposition has already lost this debate since the beginning of the leader of opposition speech. So first of all, they never actually refuted the points of any of our speakers, and even if they did, even if they tried, none of them were able to actually break down the points, and none of them were actually able to counter to these points with bringing better arguments. And I'll give you a bit of analysis why. So first of all, on the contention of social contract, we understand that opposition may think that, oh, freedom of choice, freedom of the right to choose is so important, and we have to uphold that so much. First of all, this is where social contract actually comes into play, which was already explained so thoroughly by my Prime Minister, where, if you don't know what social contract is, it's when the rights of an individual or a group of people can be overruled by the state if it leads to the betterment of society as a whole, or if whatever choice that these individuals make will actually harm society. This is where social contract actually puts into play, and what my Prime Minister actually contracted. You have to actually explain to us, why is it so dire for you to uphold the freedom of choice of this small minority? One contradiction that you should have realized that you came up with was your DLO came up by saying that, oh, they're such a small minority, so why do you care to tax them? Why do you care about these people? I have the same question for you. If you care so much, if you think that they're such a small minority, minority, why do you care for upholding their rights? Why do you care that they have rights to be upheld? This is where the contradiction happens and why you should actually realize what you're going to fight for. Thirdly, there's actually so much lack of justification through all three speakers, where it was to the point where all of our rebuttals were able to actually refute these arguments. Why? Because if you realize it or not, each of their arguments were just a touch and go. For example, the main example would be education. They were talking about how, mandated education is way better than mandated taxes. How so? Explain to us. How is mandated education better? Explain to us, what are you going to do? Are you going to educate these parents by giving them courses, by sending them into tuitions? I don't know. You have to explain to us, how are you actually going to do mandated education if that's your sole argument? If your entire argument is going how education is way better, we want to have stronger education, so what? How are you going to do it? What's going to be the implementation? You have to acknowledge that. Also, another point would be how you should actually realize that throughout this debate, we have the same problem here. All right, both sides are actually trying to solve the same problem, which is children being unvaccinated. Children don't have the right to choose what they want, so hence their parents are the ones who make the choices for them. So they can't really choose to be vaccinated. Opposition never came up and told us what happens to the children. Their sole basis was on the parents, and the right of the parents, and the right of the parents. That's it. Yada yada. They never actually acknowledged the fact that these children will actually be harmed at the end of the day. How these children will actually be the ones who might actually harm other people at the end of the day. How in the future, if they're not vaccinated, it harms their lives, it harms others' lives, it harms society as a whole. They never actually came up to us and told us how they're going to actually solve the problem. The only argument that they were going on was education, which was not actually justified. And secondly, about the rights of the people, rights of the parents actually, which also secondly is not justified due to the social contract. So please realize that opposition never really came up with actual solid arguments or concrete arguments, which is why government has already won through each and every one of their rebuttals. So why do we win? As simple as that. All of our points still stand at the end of the day. It's clear to say that all of our points regarding rights of parents lose to the rights of society as a whole, how benefits of vaccination exist, how the benefits and harms of anti-vaccination taxes, the harms of not having anti-vaccination taxes, and lastly, the effectiveness of tax. All of our arguments still stand at the end of the day, because even if opposition came up to counter them, came up to rebut them, they didn't give a thorough analysis as to why these arguments are wrong, as to why these arguments are false. Honestly, the fact that we're so disappointed about is they kept on coming up telling us that, there's no education in current status quo, there's nothing happening in current status quo. There is. Open your eyes and realize that there is education happening in current status quo. That is not working, which is why we have to uphold to this motion, which is why we have to prove it. So I want you to we need you to realize that the only sole basis of opposition's argument was we are right, and that's it. There was no contention on our side of government, and we already gave you solid characterization, arguments with thorough analysis and justification. We provided comparisons and clashes, and we actually engaged with opposition. And with that, it's already clear that government has already won this debate.
Thank you, the government side, to wrap up the case. So with that, it will mark that we have reached the end of our debate. So I would like to invite the educators the educator to give a little bit of comments about the debate just now. Please welcome.
Okay, alright. Assalamualaikum. Can you give me 5 minutes to do so, because I have to do a little bit of marking here. Is it okay?
Yes, sure.
Alright, thank you. Alright, may I know what did the government vetoed on the motion? What was the motion you vetoed on?
We vetoed the second motion.
Okay, for the opposition, right?
Sorry, yeah.
We vetoed
Okay.
the first motion.
Alright, okay, thank you.